So thank you very much. I hope you can hear me. I put the screen on so that you can also see me. So I had the opportunity to make a solidarity visit to your country. I guess it's nearly 4 weeks ago. I was welcomed in Lviv and on the eastern part of the country, and also at the time to go to Transcarpathia to visit a Reformed church there in Berehov. I was asked just to give a few insights from that visit before we hand over the floor to you. First, I want to underline, and it's a global picture, you may give more insights on that. That I found that all the churches I had the opportunity to visit, I was welcomed by mainly the bishops of these churches in Lviv, are facing a challenged time and a challenged situation for them given by the war. There are many reasons, and sometimes they are particular for each church, but one of the reasons is the displacement of many peoples. We are speaking about 13 million displaced people. This is more or less 1/3 of the population of the country, which is displaced, partly internal, and I think more than 5 million now also in foreign countries. And this means that churches are affected because their members are not present and they are weakened in their capacity to work or to celebrate, or the church life is weakened by this huge displacement. Another difficulty I had the opportunity to witness is that resources from the churches are also displaced or no longer available. This was particularly the case for the Lutheran Church, German-speaking, and also for the Reformed Church, who minister left the country, the Germans to go back to Germany. They were in short, short-time missions of 3 years, and they left the country. So that the celebration has to be done, the worship, the Sunday worship by lay people, and that the bishop has to travel a lot to celebrate the Eucharist, because this is not foreseen by Lutheran traditions for the lay people. Another difficulty also in the church life is I could witness or discuss about was the move from congregations within the Orthodox churches, from one Orthodox church to another, which is a very sensitive matter, as we all know, because we had it also in other countries on sensitive issue that congregations decide to move from one church to another. And I must say that even if bishops are friends and are able to sit together and to discuss the issue, it remains very sensitive issue. And the third point, which makes the situation very challenging for the church, is there is a huge increase of needs, of social needs, of diaconical work on several aspects. The first one is there are more vulnerable people, and they want to work and to be solidar with poor people locally. They have also to face the fact that elderly people sometimes remain very isolated because the younger generation went, and the men are on the front, and the women and the children are not there. At least 1 month ago, I had to witness this. And also the solidarity work with the front. So there are many issues to face, social issues, and a lower level of resources of people, volunteers or people willing to work on these issues. And the last point of this uncertainty is probably that there is a huge uncertainty about the future, because no one really knows how the future, or how this war will end, although people I met were very certain that, I would say, Ukrainian will win the war, but at least there is a huge point about uncertainty of how the future will be. And let me give you two examples, because speaking about churches not on this round table. One is the German-speaking Lutheran Church. I also mentioned that Bishop Pablo Schwarz took over a position as bishop 2 years ago now, I think, in a very difficult situation for his church, because they had a huge debt from his predecessor to progressively get out of. And now he has to face a lack of ministers because they went back to Germany, and he is traveling a lot just to ensure the Sunday worships. For instance, and he's also traveling in areas of war. He celebrated the Eastern celebration in Kharkiv, and is crossing the country, traveling a lot. And I was very, impressed and had a huge sense of respect also for his strong commitment as bishop, trying to allow the celebration and the life of the church by his own capacity to work with the resources they have and a lack of ministries. And another insight may come, and then I can conclude, from the Hungarian Reformed Church, but we have also Vilmos with us. Vilmos, no, it's not, he's not, oh, he will join us. I was very surprised because it was, in a way, an Hungarian island in Ukraine I visited. So you feel in a total other culture when you come to Transcarpathia. They have a very strong link, this church has a very strong link to Hungary and to Germany, and in a way a very low one to Ukraine, I must say. But the church faces a huge crisis, I must say. More or less half of their members left the country. And these are the only place where I think those who I encountered said that I'm not sure they will come back. Because they feel Hungarian, and if the law will last, they will probably remain in Hungary or perhaps in Germany. So they have a lower link to Ukrainian identity as other people who left the country. And so the bishop said, oh, probably I left half of the church. Or I will miss half of the church after the war. We'll see what happens. And in a way, he was very concerned, not so concerned by the church as the other churches. They do a lot of social work and tracks to the front and solidarity work. But in a way, he was very pessimistic, because he gave me the feeling that on the one hand, if the Russian will win the war, he will have a Russian influence back, as it was the case in Soviet time for him. And on the other hand, but if the Ukrainians win the war, I have to face the kind of proudness of Ukrainian identity, and that's also difficult for me as Hungarian in Ukraine. And so he was very pessimistic. He showed me that they create 2 shelters in Berehov, which is very far away from the front, for 500 people each one. They are fully equipped next to the church to go to the shelters, and it's very impressive the way they face this issue, and that he has a pessimistic view on what happens, because he fears that for his church this has a huge impact. They just bought a huge building to create a home for people, and it's now totally over-dimensioned to the real resources of the church. So to see that there are huge impacts and huge questions that people are dealing with through this war. So these insights from 2 churches which are not on the table yet, and I think it's better to give the floor now to those who are in Ukraine. But I was very warmly welcomed in Ukraine, and I must say these are great people who offered their time and gave a strong witness of their hope for future and the way they want to go ahead as churches in this difficult situation. Thank you.